In Chautauqua County, we have a lot of men and women to thank. From the 367 plus who died fighting in the 112th Infantry, the Chautauqua Regiment during the Civil War, to our community's most recent fallen soldiers. Patrick May from Jamestown, who died in Baghdad a year and a half ago. And Philip Witkowski, who graduated from Fredonia High School and died in Afghanistan 6 years ago this month. I believe the best way to honor these men and women who have died for our democracy is to honor our democracy itself. We live in one of the most privileged societies in history. Yet in the last presidential election, fewer than 2/3 of eligible voters bothered to vote for president. And the numbers drop when we talk about local elections. Voting is the least each of us can do to honor the democracy our fallen friends fought for. Serving our country by serving its citizens as government workers, teachers, Peace Corps volunteers are just a few of the other ways each of us can become engaged in strengthening our democracy and our country. On this Memorial Day, when we gather to honor and cherish the many men and women who have given their lives to serve our country, I ask each of you to give more than thanks for their service. Give your country your time, your expertise, your opinions, and your active participation. Thank you.
Through the years, growing up in Dunkirk and Fredonia, my parents and grandparents always ensured our family attended these services at the park before or after the parade, which used to be the custom. These were good events, but the nagging question in my mind was, who are these men that we were remembering? I often heard my grandfather, George Burns Sr., talk about them, and then my father, George Jr., at the Legion, talking about some of these men, some of the ones who've been wounded, some of the ones who had taken part in just significant campaigns in World War II. But it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I motivated myself to do the research and find out who these men were and what their stories were. I realized that the memories of these men would be gone forever shortly unless we did not document that somehow. Let's face it, their parents are gone. Most of their brothers and sisters are gone. Most were too young to be married and have children. And most that remains of these memories now is some nieces and nephews. Last year, I relayed some of their stories, and later in the Observer, in an article, I described my visit to the graves of two of these men and the memorial markers in the Punch Bowl Cemetery in Honolulu. Here I will document more of their stories.
Nicest Veterans Memorial in Western New York. This place is just beautiful. Throughout the day, this time of year, happens all the time, people will see tattoos I have, or a hat I have, or a jacket. They'll come up and they'll thank me for my service, or pat me on the back, or shake my hand. And I don't correct them that this isn't Veterans Day. This is Memorial Day. It's for people who aren't here, who you can't thank face to face. Lord knows back in the day, we didn't get a lot of thank yous from Vietnam, so I'll take what I can. But in reality, the soldiers, the heroes for today are no longer with us, but they're easy enough to find. You drive past any cemetery, you'll see the small flags, and beneath those flags are true American heroes. These are people who gave everything they had and everything they were going to have so we could be here today doing what we do. We can live because of what those guys did for all of us. I'm here because of people laying underneath those flags. There's other people up here would say the same. And we honor them every day, in our hearts and in our minds. I wrote a little thing in the paper today about a friend of mine that passed away recently, and he's probably embarrassed that I even mentioned his name because he was that kind of person, like most of those people. They don't look for glory, they're not looking for fame, they're not looking for anything. They did the job because they were asked to do the job. And it's that simple. And that's what the day's about, is honoring the people who did the job when they were asked and did it well, and did it really, ultimately, as far as you could take that job. They gave their lives for everybody standing here, for us to do what we do for the rest of our lives. And I don't know if we can ever do enough to honor those people. I wrote something in the paper recently. It was one of the reasons I was asked to be here, I believe, about meeting a young veteran from the Iraq War who clearly was having some issues. I'm not quite sure why this kid hit me the way he did. It's not like he was the first person I've ever seen with those kind of issues. But I reached out to him thinking maybe I could give him a little help with my experience. And I thought maybe instead of just going to the cemetery like I usually do and talking to the people I talk to, my friends, that maybe if I reached out in their honor and tried to help somebody like this kid, and if more people did that, then we can turn this day into a little bit more than just remembering those who aren't with us. We could actually, in their name, do something positive and maybe make them a little bit more alive again, at least in our memories. And then the next year when I go to the cemetery, I can say to my friends, hey, guess what I did for you in your name and your honor? And I'll mention those names to the people I try to help. And if maybe more of us could do that, then we change this day into a lot more than just honoring those who've passed.